Hello Jamaica, EPOC is launching a brand new video series and you've got to be there. We're taking EPOC from the corner to the streets.
God knows what does, you know the dollars, make it steady, because trust me, if the dollar is not steady, things are going to keep on going up. So the dollars have to stay one place and a move, you understand?
So what do you think inflation is?
I guess an economic phenomenon that occurs as a result of a high supply and low demand, low demand and high supply, or something like that.
Inflation is the decrease in the purchasing power of the dollar, or consumer's dollar.
Or what do you think causes it?
The same demand situation, meaning demand for a product is really high, but then the supply isn't there. So it creates an imbalance in the economy.
Cost push, for example, when the raw materials of a product goes up or increases.
My name is Ralston Hyman and I'm a member of the Economic Program Oversight Committee.
My name is Helene Davis-White and I'm president of the Jamaica Confederation of Trade Unions and also a member of the Economic Program Oversight Committee. Some of what was said is partly correct.
Inflation is the average increase in prices, and that is why sometimes people say the inflation rate that we get is not equivalent to my inflation rate. What they're forgetting is an average. It's an average of a number of goods and services that is placed in a basket that is developed by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, which operates by international standards. There are two types of inflation. There's inflation that is generated by what we call excessive purchasing power. Simply translated, too much money chasing too few goods. And then there's also inflation that comes from the cost side, increases in production costs, such as the cost of oil, cost of energy, and the cost of labor. The major factors that contribute to inflation is increases in energy prices. That has been Jamaica's problem for a long time, from the first oil price crisis in 1973. So that's one. It also relates to the cost of labor. Whenever there are wage increases that are not backed by increases in the production of goods and services, that leads to inflation. Additionally, when the government runs large fiscal deficits, that is spending more than it is collecting, that also helps to drive inflation. And when the central bank funds that by printing money, that also helps to drive inflation.
Practically, for us in Jamaica, we have had for umpteen years inflation sometimes going out of the roof. But in recent times, inflation has been stable. Stable because the Bank of Jamaica has taken a decision that it should be focusing on keeping inflation stable. Because if you recognize, large part of the role of the Bank of Jamaica is about price stability, and they do that through what they call monetary policy. And in doing that, the Bank of Jamaica has taken a conscious decision in the last several years, 3-4 years, that they should be focusing on inflation, and so they have tried to put in place policies that will ensure that inflation is managed and kept stable.
From Kingston, Jamaica, B.O.J.
We don't want it too high, we don't want it too low. When inflation's stable and predictable, that's the way to go. Cause when it high, people are gonna cry. When it's too low, the economy can't grow.
The government has done over the last several years is to put in place a range for inflation. I know from our point of view as the unions, when we are negotiating, inflation is very important for us, because if we can recover inflation when we do our wage negotiations, it means that we are keeping the purchasing power of the worker. So it means that if I earned $10 today and inflation was 10%, it means that my purchasing power would have been reduced by that margin. When we say purchasing power, what it really means is if you have your income at a particular level, what is it able to buy you? If it is able to buy you whatever, 10 loaves of bread today, can that same amount buy you 10 loaves of bread Down the road, if it isn't because prices have gone up, then it means that your purchasing power has reduced if your salary or your income hasn't changed. And so for us, when we are doing wage negotiations, inflation, the level of inflation is very important. And what we came to out of an agreement for, say, our public sector workers was that the government would be keeping inflation between a range of 4 and 6%. And so that range was considered to be acceptable, bearing in mind, because, you know, we talk about high inflation, we also have a problem if inflation is too low as well. And for the life of me, not being an economist, I could not understand when person said that there was that problem, but the economists tell you that there is a problem when inflation is too low. So it is about keeping it stable. And so over the last several years, we have kept inflation very stable in that range, 4 to 6%, which is supposed to be good for economy, good for prices generally.
Thank you all for watching the first episode of EPOC in the Streets. We have a lot more exciting topics to discuss, so stay tuned. The questions of the day are: do you think the government and the Bank of Jamaica are doing enough to manage inflation? And what products do you think have experienced the most price increases? Comment your responses below. Remember to like, share, and turn on your post notifications.